Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. I've got a couple retrobates with me. No, seriously, two wonderful people with me. So Mike is our main speaker, Mike Ames. So the reason why we've got Mike on this is because he's actually run several businesses, but he's actually built two very successful businesses that he've sold for very significant amounts of money. So he's been there, done that. He absolutely is top notch on sales and getting those relationships and getting those long-term good to high net worth value clients. So just to make sure you're all in the right place, our webinar today is how your people can start winning high value new clients. So even if you're not in the right place, you thought you were going to be doing something else much more boring, stay, because this is it. This is a really going to be a great webinar. So Mike, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm really looking forward to it. It's one of my favorite subjects because obviously we're going to talk about succession in a minute, but a key element of that is being able to bring in business, winning high value clients. And it's what I'm passionate about, and hopefully that will come through today. Lots of practical things, lots of things to think about. The idea is you come out of this thinking differently, having practical things that you can do differently than when you joined us. So hopefully fingers crossed for that.
Absolutely. And as Paul says, he's been there, done that, threw the t-shirt in the bin and bought that shirt. No comments on that shirt though. I'm sure that's not what he was meaning. I'm also delighted, as always, we have our chat master Pete with us.
Hello, Nikki.
Pete, if you want to go through your general housekeeping exciting bits there.
Yes, as usual, there's a few things to talk about for those that have attended a few of these now. Number one, we are recording this webinar, so don't be too worried about trying to get down copious notes. It's going to be available fairly shortly after, probably back into this week, maybe early next, for you to see. We're also taking some notes, so there will be some notes emailed to everybody who has attended and those who have registered but not been able to make it. We're also driving this webinar with Q&A. This is an opportunity for you guys, as much as Mike's got some things he wants to talk about, it's an opportunity for all of you to pick his mind, really dig into what he's talking about. So it's Q&A driven. And with that in mind, we are using the chat for the Q&A. So the chat at the bottom, if you look, move your mouse around, there should be a chat button. If you give that a click, chat should open up off to the right. I shouldn't have to explain Zoom anymore, but I like to. And just to make sure we've all found it, I've got a question to ask. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to you that your business not rely upon you to win new high-value clients? Scale of 1 to 10.
Being very important.
Yeah, 11 when we started talking about this. So if you could pop that in the chat, and then whilst you're in there as well, if you could just tell us what's the biggest hurdle to having a business that looks like that, just so we know what we're looking to talk about. And then before I hand back over, I'm just going to say one other thing. We have decided in the 30 seconds or so before we started broadcasting that there will be a bottle of champagne available for what we be the most interesting question.
And it is champagne, not Prosecco. Proper champagne.
Well, I'm out then. No, I only do the Prosecco. I'm too uncultured for the good stuff. So with that in mind, so please, questions, throw them in the chat as they occur to you. And with that in mind, back to you, Nikki.
Thank you, Pete. Brilliant. So I know that you'll look after us and keep us in order and on time. Whilst we are waiting for those answers to that first question come in, Mike, I wondered if you could just cover the basic agenda for today.
I'll keep it very brief. So the first thing we're going to talk about is why winning high value new clients is an important aspect of succession, whether that's an exit or whether you whatever exit route that you've got. Winning those high value new clients is important. We're going to talk about why. Then we're going to look at the obstacles that stand in your way. So why aren't you winning loads more? In fact, why doesn't the business win loads more while you're on a beach in Acapulco? Then I'm going to give you a very simple 3-step system. Really, everyone says that, but this is very simple. 3-step system that you can use, or you can train other people to use, which will win high value new clients for you. Right, I'm going to do lots of live demos, show you stuff, going to get in there. It's going to be great. And then even if that's not enough, I'm going to give you 3 out of the box tips, BD tips that you can use right away that will have an effect. Clearly, they're going to be easy to do because we don't want anyone to have to go through training or anything. You can just do them. So that'll be right at the very end.
Goodness, you're going to spoil us.
I am, yes.
All those tips, amazing. Thank you so much. So, Pete, what in general does the response look like at the moment?
Well, I think you called it right on the first bit that everybody's pretty much put a 10. Nobody's done a turn it up to 11, but loads of 10s.
So they're definitely in the right place then.
0, but he points out that's because he's on his own. So there's no one else at the moment to win it for. But he does want people to do it eventually.
So he'll be ready for when he does have a team.
Yes. So the challenges were time. So the time to get this transferred over. Removing a single point of contact within the business that maybe you've got at the moment. Everybody wants to come to you. Biggest hurdle, big enough team to delegate to, and the overheads to then manage that team that's delivering that function.
Chicken and egg, isn't it?
And then, I mean, we've already getting some questions coming in. Thank you for that, P. I'll use people's initials because it is anonymous, and I really do want to stress that. P was already asking questions about how you can predict which prospects will be high value before investing time in them.
Good question.
I know where we're going to go with that one. So we'll come to that in the Q&A if we don't cover it off before. But thank you to everybody who's popped things in. There's some I haven't managed to cover. But so I think plenty for Mike to go at.
Excellent. Right. Well, let's dive straight in. Get through. Make sure you get all this useful information. So, first question then, Mike, you're going to cover: why is winning high value clients so important for succession? Just why?
Okay. All right. So, whatever your exit route from your business, and there aren't that many, there's turning the lights off and leaving, because you've made all the money you need, and that's fine. But other than that, if you want to somehow get value from your business, excuse me, there aren't that many choices that you have. You can go for a trade sale, you can float, you can MBO. I suppose that's about it really. But each of those require somebody to bring in new clients and revenue. If a potential purchaser looks and sees it's you, that is immediately going to reduce the value of your business, or in some cases just turn them off completely. If it's an MBO, then you couldn't hand over to a management team that can't bring in clients. That's just a disaster. And if you want to just take a back seat, let the thing run, and you just sort of play a lot of golf or whatever it is you want to do, again, if you're the one that has to bring in the clients, that model isn't going to work. So if whatever exit that you are thinking of, you have to be able to establish a credible mechanism to win those high value new clients. Now, someone asked about what constitutes a high value client. That varies from sector to sector, but there are some things that are in common, and I'll very quickly run through them. These are in the notes, by the way, a little bit more detail in the notes because we hadn't planned to cover it in any great depth now. But typically, you're looking at a company or whoever it is that you sell to, an organization who buys what you sell more than once. So you can take the trouble of getting them as clients, and then you can sell ongoing to them. So it's got a value which outstrips just the first deal. The second thing is that they value their suppliers. Now, why is that important? Because if they don't value their suppliers, they'll be hell to work with. They probably won't pay what you expect. And they're just as likely to go to another supplier who comes in who's cheaper or takes them on a kind of a weekend away or something, whatever. So you need someone that really does value that supplier base. You want someone who gives you work that you can deliver fairly easily. A lot of my clients are recruiters, and they get some very obscure vacancies that they can never fill. There's no point in that. And then lastly, and this is obvious really, I suppose, they're prepared to pay what you want to charge. Obviously, there's a limit to that. It always comes down to cost to a certain extent, but they get value. They understand the concept of value. Now, those 4 criteria, if you can get clients that will tick those 4 criteria, then it makes a huge difference to the growth of your business. And the reason I was able to sell the first business for a lot of money was that we had a lot of those clients in there. Yeah. From 0 to £40 million turnover in a decade only came about because we had high value clients and we didn't lose them. So
Yeah.
it's really important to do that. I mean, you would echo that presumably as well.
Absolutely. And so just to sort of emphasize the sort of monetary value, it's not just about it being a high amount of revenue to you, it's high margin, you know, because it's very easy for us all to be extremely busy, not making much money. You know, you want to make sure those clients are valuing and therefore paying a decent premium for your service.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there are other criteria you might pick to identify them, the sector that they're in, the job title, the kind of work that they do, et cetera, but they're going to vary. But those 4 things remain pretty much the same. Okay, so let me just quickly tell you then how buying works very, very quickly. When people buy things, they buy things on a cycle. So you buy something and then you're not interested in it. Typically, say a car. If you're looking for a car, you know, that period where you think, I need a new car. So you start to read things about cars, look at cars out and about and talk to people about cars. Then you move into the buying zone, out of the pre-buying zone and into the buying zone where you're going out, looking at cars, test driving things. And then you buy one and then you're not interested again for the next 3 years. So if someone's trying to sell you a car, they've got to approach you either when you're in the pre-buying zone, which is the best time, because then you can be thrown into the mix, or as a Johnny come lately, when you're in the buying zone. Hopefully they'll push their car in and you look at that as well. So when you're trying to build your business, if you rely on inbound leads, that's great because it means that someone's coming to you because they've got a need. They're in the pre-buying zone or the buying zone. And someone has said, oh, you need to speak to that Nikki Larkin because she's a great accountant. So, oh, well, they come to you. But if you really want to rev up your growth, you've got to be able to be the first choice for people that aren't referred to you. Let me say that again, because it's important. So referrals are fine. We love them, more of those. But you also have got to have some kind of relationship with a bunch of people who aren't ready to buy now, but at some point they will be, and they will come to you, not because they're referred to you, but they'll come to you for other reasons. And that's what we're going to talk about today, really, is how to do that. Because when you can do that, it changes everything. Brilliant. Okay, so just one other thing as well, just while I'm on that, just before we move on to the next question. If you're approaching people, and I'm not suggesting cold calling, I haven't done a cold call since the 90s, but if you're approaching people and you want to talk about what you sell and what they buy, if they're not in the buying zone or the pre-buying zone, then you're going to get nowhere. They're not interested. This model is based on content. So you're going to talk about something that you know is of interest to them and has got nothing to do with what you sell necessarily. It's just something that's interesting to them. And because you do that, it changes the narrative away from buy this thing I've got to, hey, look at this. Would you find this interesting? And if you do your job properly, a percentage of those people will say yes. And you can guarantee that. Can't guarantee which ones, but a percentage of them will say, yes, that piece of content, yeah, I'm interested in that. Let's talk. And you've begun the dialogue, whether there's a need or not. And that's a crucial element of this whole system that I'm going to share with you a bit later.
Excellent.
Okay.
Right. I'm looking forward to that.
Just one on this, yeah. People, we've already had some questions in. We already have a lead for the late attendees. Bottle of champagne for the best question at the end. We've already got a lead for that one. But if there are any questions about anything that Mike just said, pop it in the chat. We are going to be stopping for Q&A, I think, after this next section.
Excellent. Okay, so we've gone through why it's so important and been through a few of the basics. But so what's the obstacles? What obstacles are generally in the way for actually winning these clients? Why aren't we already winning them all?
Well, interestingly, I work across quite a few sectors, actually, and it's pretty much the same obstacles wherever you go. And I think we've got a little poll now that Pete's just going to bring up in a second, just to see what the audience are thinking, and then we can compare that with what generally is said. So, Pete, do you want to make that active?
Can.
Excellent. So what are the obstacles standing in your way of winning new clients?
I think you can vote on more
do we
than one
just
of those.
choose one or do multiples?
I think you can choose more than one, can't you? I think.
Okay, so we'll see. We'll see when you. We're not allowed to vote, so I can't tell. But so is it because you're uncomfortable cold calling new prospects? Is the barrier no system for winning new clients? Well, I think by the end of this hour, you will have a system. Decision makers are hard to reach. No perceived differentiator to make us stand out. Okay, it's mainly down to me, and I'm short on time because you're too busy doing the work instead of working on the business probably. So, or finally, my team lack the skills, confidence, or business contacts. Do you know what I notice? Not that I want to skew this poll or anything, because obviously it's going to be such a scientific.
You don't get champagne if this is a good thing, you know that, don't you?
But I do notice it's confidence usually, because there's so many people that are completely able to do this. They've got the skills and know and would be able to do it. It's the comfort. It's often the confidence.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll see what we got, Pete.
Well, we've just had one more drip in, so I'm just going to end polling in about 20 seconds. But just say, I think it was geared to choose the biggest obstacle.
Biggest obstacle. What's the big? So therefore, one biggest obstacle.
Okay, let's have them. Let's get them up and see.
Not going to be surprised, I think.
Oh, okay. So,
wow.
Highest one: decision makers are hard to reach.
Well, luckily, by a weird twist of fate, that's one of the things I'll be doing today, actually.
So hopefully by the end of the day, that won't be such a big obstacle.
Yeah.
All of the others look fairly similar, sort of 13 and 7%, weren't they? Most of them.
Seemed that way.
It was
Okay. And there wasn't, so there was none in there that anyone, there wasn't one that was selected. So everybody, has got something, a slightly different take.
I think the decision makers one is actually useful because if you think about, certainly in a decision making in a high value client, they're not going to want to talk to suppliers if their current supplier community are doing the job because they're loyal to them. So that's a big problem. Then you've got to reach them. Then you've got to, if you do get to speak to them and they have a need and it's not being met, a lot of ifs here, by their existing suppliers, you've then got about like 30 seconds to be able to talk to them in a way that they think, okay, then I'll give you a bit more time. My goodness, that's a big ask, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. Because I would have said my one's always, I'm always trying to do this. So I do try to make time, but I am having to make time for it. So the time factor is my biggest barrier. So
I've got some news on that in a second.
It's important. So you make the time, don't you?
I've got some good news on that, Nikki, in just a second. So,
Peter, well, I'm not going to have to do it much long, can I? Because I'll have all my team doing it for me.
Just make Pete do it.
And I can just go play tennis. Perfect.
Pete, have we got any questions coming in?
I had questions flying in, yes. So, first question, I'm short of time. So how can I fit in any sales?
Feel you.
Okay, well, hold that thought. The system I'm going to teach you today, you can do on about 15 or 20 minutes a day. And if you miss a day, it's not the end of the world, quite frankly. So, and you can do it from your armchair at night. I do most of mine in the evenings, or you can do it in the daytime if you want to. The other time for me is in the mornings. I am an early starter, as Nikki is, because we sometimes
lots of my Twitter and LinkedIn's are early mornings and late evenings.
There I am. So time. To begin with, the system I'm going to show you has got two levels. This is level one, the easiest level. There is a level that sits on top of this, which demands more time and is a bit more involved, but gets better results. But we're going for simple today. So, okay, Pete, any more?
Yes, pardon me. Someone's asked, why did Mike stop cold calling in the 90s?
Sadel blocked his number.
For two reasons, really. By then, I employed loads of people, so I don't know what they did. Maybe they cold called, maybe they didn't. Who knows, really? But we learned to build a network, and the network did the business for us. That you should never have to make a cold call. They should always be warm calls. And what I'm going to show you today is a system that will do that for you. But increasingly, people in bigger businesses, and that's who we sold to, it's not a person that makes a decision. It's a system or a panel or a procedure. So cold calling became less and less useful. And of course, then we had mobile phones and voice messages and, there's a whole bunch of obstacles. You just think, why bother? There must be an easier way than this. And there is actually, funnily enough.
Yeah, because if you're cold calling, you've got to get through the reception and, and you say you go to voicemail and then they just don't return. So it's a different thing.
Don't do it. Seriously.
Yeah.
We did have another question, which I thought was really good because I know this comes up a lot. So someone said they rely upon referrals.
Yeah.
Do they need to change that? Really?
No. Referrals should be, I think, the icing on the cake. The problem with referrals is you can't control the frequency that they come. So there's nothing and you're desperate, or there's loads and you can't cope. You can't control the quality of the lead, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. lead. And of course, you can't direct that. So if you wanted to do more business in a geographical area, or you wanted to sell one of your products or services or whatever, then you can't dictate what comes your way. So I think take it as a gift horse. Brilliant. We call it in the trade a bluebird. So you get the bluebird, brilliant, make some money out of it. But underneath that, you need this engine, which is just chugging away, bringing in leads for you. And that's the thing that makes a difference, I think.
Yeah, it's good to have a mix. I always like having a mix. So, it's great to have my networking referrals, good to have the client referrals, getting the straight leads in from your internet stuff, but by you creating your activity too, it's good to have all bases covered.
It is, yeah. One thing before I move on, actually, which just occurred to me as I was telling you that story. If you're a one-man band, or there's only one or two of you, one-person band, I should say, shouldn't I? If there's only a small business, you might say, well, I haven't got people. Then you need to build a virtual team. It's the new thing, although it's been around for years. If you get a chance to read The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, Tim Ferriss is insane.
4-hour?
4-Hour Work Week, yeah.
Not the 4-day, the 4-hour.
No. 4-Hour Work Week. Tim Ferriss is insane, right? But what the essence of what he does, it's what we do. It's how we run our business. There's only 4 of us, but I think I added up, we've got about 10 people in our extended team. So it's a really cool way of building a team without having to employ people. And the term they use these days is smart sourcing, not outsourcing. Come up with these words. But it's pretty good, actually, because you are thinking about what needs to be done and who can do them. And that doesn't have to be someone in your business, right? So, and it's really important, I think, if you're a small business and want to grow, but don't want to employ a lot of people, smart sourcing is the way forward. I'm conscious of the time, Pete. We've got to move on, I guess.
Oh, indeed. Okay, so we're actually going to go to the system now, aren't we? You've got a 3-step system.
I was kidding. I haven't got anything. I was hoping we'd run out of time before I had to tell you what it was, but sadly not. Okay, let me share my screens. Don't forget, if you've got questions as we go through, pile them into Pete. He'll interrupt me from time to time, and we'll stop for questions, so that's fine. Now, this isn't death by PowerPoint. There'll be some PowerPoint because it's an easy way to represent it. There'll be some live stuff online, and then there'll be a bit of talky bit as well. So let's go for it. Okay, so I'm hoping you can all read the premise that this whole system is based on, because otherwise we're in trouble, really. Good. Okay, so the system I'm going to use is really based on 2 things. First of all is content. Content changes the narrative away from will you buy this thing to can I help you? I mean, that's essentially what it is. So content is massively important. Now, we don't have an opportunity to go through content fully today. There's quite a lot to it to choose the right content, thick and chunky content. We're doing thin and chunky content. We're doing a bit on thin content today, and how you get it produced if you haven't got a team, etc., etc. We have a webinar, and it is quite coincidental that we're doing next week. It was planned yonks ago, but it happens to be next week on Wednesday, I think. If it's free and everything, there's no pitch to it or anything. If you'd like to come to that, when I've finished doing this, just put a 7 in the chat and we'll take your name and we'll send you a link. And if you like what you see, you can register. So just put a 7 in the chat when you, if you'd like to know more about content. Okay, so the second premise that it's based on is this, is that to be successful, you just have to keep doing the right things for the right people until it's the right time for them to buy. And by that, I mean, they move into that pre-buying zone where they're beginning to think about purchasing something, or the buying zone where they're actively going out and trying to buy what they want. Your job is to use this system or a system like it to be able to keep in touch and be there until it's the right time, and then everything falls into place. This is how you can make a lot of money, tell you the truth, without working massively hard at it. Okay, so let's look at the 3 steps. Then I'm going to dig in a little deeper, and then I'm going to show you some stuff and actually do some stuff online. So first step is to connect. So we're going to use LinkedIn for that. You can equally meet people at events. That's your bag. You can do that. You can be introduced to people. Although, to be honest, if people are being introduced to you and they've got a need, you're going to kind of close them, convert them there and then if you can. If people are just introducing you because you guys should just talk to each other, then that's fine. You can put those in there. But the idea is you can meet these new people, and then the next stage is you begin to cultivate them. By cultivate, I mean build relationships with them. And a relationship really is the secret to this kind of selling. So it's not selling as such. We do a course with lawyers, don't we, Pete? And we're not allowed to use the S word.
But they don't like. I actually had someone complain that it was too salesy, and I was like,
we never
a
use the S
sales
word.
presentation was too salesy.
Of course, I'm busy relationship building.
We took it out, but the point is, this really isn't selling. There's an element of persuasion, but what you're actually doing is position it so people buy from you. So it's different. It's like a referral. People buy from you with a referral. They come to you because they want to buy something. But what you're doing is creating the same environment, but without the referral. Okay, so that's what we really want, and that's what the cultivation does. I'm going to show you a light version. Let me just confirm that again today. This is very light because I thought it would be easy for you guys to kind of start with, but there is a more kind of chunky version that goes with it. And then when they're ready, you can convert them. And by convert, I don't mean like sell to them in a hard sell kind of way. They'll be ready to buy if they've reached that stage. They just want to know for sure whether your thing meets their needs, whether it's the right flavor for them, and how much it costs. Pretty much it, really. So that's what I mean by conversion. Okay, so if you've got any questions on any of this as we go through, please ask them, and I'm very happy to.
And that's you know, it's simply stated, but you do, because you do find that you get your introductions and things, and some people are hot to trot, and it is straight away, it's conversion, and that is fabulous when that happens, but that's not all the time. You know, so many times I've had the connections. They contact me keep them warm. They contact you 3 years later and they're ready.
Just put a yes in the chat.
Yeah.
If you hate it, if you connect with someone on LinkedIn, they invite you to connect, you connect, and then the next thing you see is a pitch coming through. Just put a yes in there. You can be a bit more vocal if you like.
Mine's a big yes.
I hate that, really.
That winds me up.
And very often I'll unconnect from them, actually.
Oh, yeah. Especially when they're sneaky. The sneaky ones, they go, oh, I really want to talk to you about accountant services. And then you would connect, and then it's, no, I'm trying to sell my IT systems.
I think you're absolutely right. Now I'm just looking, I'm bringing some of my phone because I want to use it in a minute. So that's all okay. Okay. Right, let's press on then, shall we? Let's move on to the first. Okay. So number one, this is a little tip. Invite 3 new people to connect on LinkedIn each day. Okay, I know it doesn't sound vast amounts, but actually when you add them all up, it's quite a lot of people. You know, you're talking several hundred a year, really. And these are people that you have selected. So these are people that match your ideal client profile. They're the people that you would like to be trading with. So you've selected them.
So how many are you connected to? So, no, I'm not going to be specific, but are we talking then, you know, potentially will be connected to thousands?
I'm connected to about 3,500 people, but I know people who have reached the limit.
What is the limit on LinkedIn?
I think it's about 20,000, isn't it, Pete?
Oh, okay.
And they've reached the limit, so they're having to remove people so they can put new people on.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know.
I'm sure they'll start just charging you so you can have more than 20.
Yeah, I think they probably can. I think they probably will, because LinkedIn just want to make money, don't they, really? But I want you to give some tips on this. I know we've got questions coming up in a minute, but before we do that, who hates it then, Pete? Have we had a big response to that?
Yes, we had a very big response. We had exclamation marks thrown in and everything. We happens far too much. I agree with Mike. I will always disconnect with them. Someone has declared that basically all salespeople online are, I won't use the word, but it's not a nice word. One person, you won't be surprised by who it is, Mike, said, no, they love it.
Because I know who that is, and I know where you live. So let's go with that. Right, so let me just tell you. So
if I could just ask Mike, this system, someone said that they kind of can't go direct to clients. They have to go through intermediaries.
Yeah, you can use it with intermediaries as well. Yeah. I mean, in fact, it's just people. It's just connecting with people. And the thing with when we work with the lawyers and the accountants, which is more Pete's area than mine, what percentage of the people that go on our course, by the way, we're not selling our course to you. It's a closed course, so don't worry. But what percentage of the people on that course do you think have to go to intermediaries?
I'd say it's actually the nature of the people that get put through it. It's between 50 and 75%. It's the majority.
It's the same thing. It's just relationships with people. And you either want to get directly business from them because they're an end client, okay, or you want to get introductions, well, okay, but it's still getting what you want from them. And the idea of getting what you want from some is give them more than you take back in return. That's the secret to this. So the idea is you can do some searches. I'll look at a few searches in a minute, a few ways to find kind of cool people that you may or may not know about. You've got to give them a reason to connect. I mean, that's really important, because if you don't do that, then your chances of connections are quite low. Depends on other circumstances. So you want to control that. There is a way, and I'm going to show you in a second, you can get up to a 90% conversion rate. So in other words, an acceptance rate of 90% of people you invite accept. And that's more than 90% normally. And then send a welcome message. So I'm going to come back to that a little later. It's one of my tips, early doors really. But if you send a welcome message, you've started the relationship building process. What most people do is connect, and that's it then. It's like, well, I've connected, so surely they'll know who I am, think I'm fabulous and buy from me. Very, 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 very unlikely, really. If that's all you're going to do, there's not a lot of point being connected. Well, there are other reasons to be connected, but to win clients, not so much. So let me just zip in there and have a look at what we've got in LinkedIn. There we go. This is going to be a little bit slow because obviously I'm doing this broadcast as well. Right, so what I've chosen here, let me get rid of that. What I've chosen here, this guy, Dualte, really good guy. He's appearing on my show. I'm going to appear on his fairly soon. But he sells to the same audience that I do. So they don't have to be competitors. They're just people that you know have the similar kind of clients to you. So if you're an accountancy firm, you might look at what lawyers are doing, who they're interacting with. If you're a lawyer, so and so forth. So it's,
or like some super friendly insurance broker that might happen to be on here.
There you go. So you got it really. Now, obviously, you've got to choose somebody who's active on LinkedIn, but there's usually, you know, a lot of choice of that. I could have chosen one of about 100 people I know in the space, all selling to my market, right? That's fine. So Dwelter's one of them. He's posted this, which has got 71 comments and 37 likes. So it's quite a big interaction, really, which is very cool. So all I need to do, logical really, is go down and have a look to see who's been interacting with him, who's commenting on that. And if I see a potential
good nose.
If he knows a potential high value client that I'm not connected with, I can invite them and use this as a reason for us connecting. I'll show you what I mean. So let me just go down here. Now, most of these people, as you can see, I'm connected to already. Let me just see if I can find someone. So let me just have a look. Just trying to see. Pete, you just want to come out with a few questions or something while I'm just finding someone?
Can do, yeah. So, I mean, someone has asked, since we're on LinkedIn, this might be relevant. Do you recommend paying for the pro version of LinkedIn?
To begin with, no. To begin with, no. Certainly not for what I'm doing today. You can just do this on the standard version. The pro version gives you better searching. So if you're going to use the searches, this is a cheat really, but if you're going to use the searches, then the pro version is excellent. And you can use it as a mini CRM system. So you can tag people up and have groups of people based on a tag that you can then search and look at what they're doing. So, but to begin with, then I wouldn't. You know, if you find that you can't do what you want with basic LinkedIn, then yes, but you should be just fine really. I found this guy here, Richard Malpelli. He's the managing director of a recruitment firm in Thailand. So that's pretty cool. So let me just bring him up and have a look. There he is. Now, I'm going to connect with him like that. And it says add a note, right? So just to save time, I've obviously written out the invitation beforehand, because as Pete says, what do you say about me, Pete?
I'd say lots of things about you, Mike.
You say I'm not a natural, what do you say? One of nature's typists.
You're not one of nature's.
Yes, he did say that.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it's just not on the ball today, is he really? So this is a standard message. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've put these messages in the notes so you can see the messages that I'm using. But I want to draw out your attention to the structure of it. So, hi, Richard, because that's his name. I'm going to give them, when this is displayed, you see the top line. So I'm going to put there, I saw your comment on Dwelter's poll via Vincherry, which is a CRM system. Doesn't matter what it is, which I completely agree with, because I do. Authenticity is everything. Don't say something's true if you don't believe it. I happen to believe that's true, right? And I thought it would be useful to connect. I then used the word because. That will increase the number of people that will connect with you. I know it's weird. I get it, but it works, right? because of our shared interest in recruitment. Now, you might say, well, that's pretty lightweight. Shared interest recruitment doesn't matter what it is. You can say, but because we're both men, it doesn't matter what it is, really. It's the because that makes a big difference. Then the killer, the one that makes all the difference, is the PS. The PS, as I'll talk about later, is people are drawn to PSs. So if you want to get an important message across in an email or in a letter or in an invitation or in a LinkedIn message, put a PS on it and people will read it. So this proves that I've looked at his details. I've been online, I've looked at his work history, or I've looked at his website, or I've looked at his LinkedIn page, and I've seen that he worked in Black Box, which is a company.
So is this not just a copy and paste to lots of people?
Exactly. Exactamundo. It's exactly what it is. This will get you, this approach, depending on what the PS is and how close the connection is, to about a 90% acceptance rate if it's done properly. So I'm just going to send that bad boy. There he goes, right? So that's done. 3 of those a day. It's not hard. So I went through, obviously, their Dwelter's posts that he's put on, found one where he got a lot of comments and likes, go through the people who've liked it, go through the people who've commented on it. And that's given me the reason then to accept, to invite them to connect. You can also, of course, go and look at your notifications to see if there's anybody in there.
All looking at you.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah, that's good, isn't it?
Our
Really?
commercial
So
manager.
you can go down and look to see if there's anybody down here who I did have someone earlier, I think Greg Moore. So I'm kind of interested in him. So I can invite him to connect. And this time we're going to use a slightly different message, which is this one. As you can see, there we go. It's the same structure, except this time, just that you notice, drop my profile there, yada, 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 because shared interest recruitment sector. And then the PS here is based in North America. We've started trading with North American agencies, and I bet that'll attract him. So you see the point of this, right, is we're using other people's posts, which is dead easy to do. And we're using the people who have looked at our profiles as a mechanism, a reason to get them to connect with us. Yeah. 3 of those a day, you're done. That's all it takes. And I really like the idea of being able to just do this wherever and whenever I like. All I'm asking for you for this system is about 20 minutes a day, 15, 20 minutes a day is all. Well, 10 minutes can be this. Just invite a few people to connect. It's very, very simple, right?
Can I ask Mike, we've had a few stories coming through. I just wanted to interrupt.
Yeah, please do. Well, I'm just getting this the next thing ready. Go on. Yeah, go ahead.
They found a big customer on LinkedIn, but it took over a year because of COVID-19. But from what you're saying, is it actually probably would have taken that time no matter what, or it would have taken a period of time no matter what.
Taken a year to do what now?
To turn them into a customer.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely fine. I mean, high value clients by their very nature don't chop and change suppliers. So you've got to prove to them that you're good at what you do, you're different enough to bring something different to the party, and they've got to probably like you or at least get on with you. You've got to be an interesting dinner guest or, something about you which add that little package together, good at what you do, different, and a likable person. And you stand a very good chance then of being successful. But hey, that takes time, doesn't it, really?
But it's getting that common ground, because if you were doing real life networking, well, not real life, but in-person networking at the golf club with the tennis, you've already got the common interest. And so what you're just trying to do on the social media side is find that common interest where you can build the relationship.
Yeah, and it's very, very simple. As I said, we're only doing a commando raid. This is only like a very quick whiz through, and I've got a few more things to go through. But actually, I just wanted to see if anyone I invited just actually accepted.
James.
There you go. So there you go.
The key here, Mike, was.
Let me go back to Jill. Right. So Jill invited me to connect. She's the director of a recruitment firm. I'm up for that. And if I look, I can tell that she invited me to connect. She didn't put a message in there. So what I always do is send a welcome message. Now, you can type it in if you like. It's absolutely fine to do that. And I've put a welcome message in the notes so you can see. But I'm going to use my mobile, which is what I was setting up earlier, to send an audio message. So you just go into LinkedIn, into the app, find the person, which I've just done, click on message, because we're connected now, obviously. Click on message, and at the bottom right-hand side is a little microphone. Now, bear with me. This might take a moment or two, but I'm going to send her an audio message. Pretty much the same audio message I always send. Here we go. Ready? Here we go then. Hi, Jill. It's Mike Ames here. Just wanted to take a moment or two to thank you in person for inviting me to connect on LinkedIn. Much appreciated. And also to say, if there was a reason for inviting me, then please feel free to reach out. If not, it's just good to be connected. I also wanted to say, now we are connections, you're going to find me a very low maintenance contact. So I won't be pitching to you or hassling you or anything like that. However, we do produce quite a lot of free content, as you probably already know, for owners of small and micro recruitment firms. So occasionally I'd love to send you a piece of content or a link to an event. However, if you don't want me to do that, then please just say so. And of course I won't. Anyway, look, thanks again for inviting me to connect. Enjoy your day and I'll see you out there. Bye. It then asks me if I want to send it. Well, I didn't make a mistake then. I normally do. And you'll see it'll come up on the screen in just a second or two. I think it's a bit slow, but it will come up that I've actually sent it. Let me just go close that and open it up again. There it is. So that's the message. So that's gone through. You get up to a minute. So it's about 45 to 50 seconds. Now, I could have typed that in and sent it, which would have been absolutely cool. I like to send an audio message because it's starting to make me look different. And some of my personality and my dulcet Birmingham tones are starting to come out. And it just begins the process. And quite often, people will respond to that. Sometimes it's thanks, thumbs up or whatever, but it's a response. This is the beginning of the relationship building process that we've made here. And that's really important. So if I can just go back to the PowerPoint. So you find people using lots of different ways. You invite them, giving them a reason to connect. You get a high acceptance rate and you send them a welcome message. Awesome, right? Now, the next is to cultivate and convert. I've merged those two together. So we're going to use LinkedIn and we're going to use a thing called a long form LinkedIn post, which I'm going to show you now. I'd love to spend more time on this, but sadly I can't. But LinkedIn has an algorithm which dictates whether your post gets shown to more than 7% of your contacts. You make a post, only 7% see it. LinkedIn wants to know whether it can send it to more than that. It only wants your post to be interesting because then that attracts and keeps people on your feed. That's where the adverts are that LinkedIn are put in. So people buy from the adverts and that's what they want. That's why you shouldn't put a link in a post because it sends people away from LinkedIn. LinkedIn doesn't like that and it won't promote your post. Okay, no way will it do that. So let me just have a quick look. I'll show you one that I did earlier, which is absolutely fine. So this was a poll I ran a wee while ago. It's had nearly 400 votes and 19,918 views, which is quite a large number. Oh, look, we've just had a message back from Will, from Jill.
Yeah, well, that was quick.
How cool is that? I promise, I give you my absolute word, I didn't set that up. I promise I didn't, just in case.
Yeah.
I'll tell you when I set things up, and I didn't set that up. I'll deal with that later. Right, so this is a long form LinkedIn post. It's written to a certain formula. It's quite long. It's got 140 characters, which grab people's attention. The bulk of it to build some desire, some kind of call to action at the end. And what you're looking for is comments, really. I've had 55 on that, which is pretty groovy, because I can interact with those comments then, obviously, and people are attracted to it. I got 3,500 contacts and nearly 20,000 people saw this. So obviously a lot more people saw this than I'm connected to. Result. Okay. So posting those long form LinkedIn posts, a couple of months is fine. Takes me 20 minutes to write them. How long does it take you, Pete?
I'm getting down to about 15 minutes now for a post.
Yeah. So no biggie really, you know, it's pretty cool. But you just keep putting two of those out, generates a lot of bulk of activity, lots of interaction with you, which is exactly what you want. Building that layer of relationships, building that rapport, building that connection, brilliant. And that's what you need.
Because I get a lot of people saying, oh, you're all over LinkedIn all the time. I sort of spend a few minutes each day on it.
Yeah.
But the impression is that I'm on there all the time.
That is one of the things right there. That is one of the things right there. It looks like you're spending a lot more time than you actually are. I don't spend vast amounts of time each day. I mean, obviously I'm a professional salesperson, so I'm probably doing an hour a day, probably. but all we're asking from you is 20 minutes. You can get a lot from that. Then what you need to do is interact with people. Okay, that's really important. So you're going to respond to them. Let me just see what we've got here. So if you made a post or you put something out there, just have a little look to see what people are doing. So people are viewing my profile, obviously. So Jeff Molyneux's just gone in there. So I might respond. People put a comment on there. I might just go in and just comment back. That's what you should do. Someone comments on your post, try and comment back within 45 minutes. LinkedIn likes that. It thinks that people are interested in what you're saying. So if you then comment back, they comment back, LinkedIn picks up on that, more likely to boost the views of it. You can, so that's notifications. You can obviously go and look at your feed, see what's happening in your feed, and you can put comments on there. And it doesn't, when we talk about comments, it doesn't have to be anything grand. It's, I haven't got time, sadly, to do that now, but it doesn't take much to click on a link as well, really. Would you rather spend the form? Right, so I'll just vote on that. Elizabeth will know that I've done that. And she may well get back to me. I picked up a client because I voted. I'm not even joking. I voted an unusual option I meant it. And she asked me why that was. And I responded, and we eventually did some business together. So a little bit of activity, some of you 20 minutes a day spent doing this, I think makes a huge difference. Then you just keep doing that. You just keep posting and interacting and posting and interacting. And then eventually you reach the stage where you can engage. Now you can use here what's called a pigeonhole pitch. I'm going to show you what it is in a minute. It's a very low key pitch. It's not even a pitch really. It's just basically saying to someone, look, we've been talking a lot, or, we've been interacting a lot. Would you actually like to know what I do? So I'm not going to pitch to you. Would you like to know? Would you like to be able to pigeonhole me? Very rare, if you pick the timing on that, will someone say no? Because you're not pitching, but you kind of are pitching really, which is why it's called a pigeonhole pitch. But what you're actually doing is saying, look, this is me. Let me tell you what that is. I'll show you what that is.
Step in for a second, Mike, here. Very quickly. It's worth noting that, because obviously this was about succession. Thus far, this system, none of that strikes me as requiring a traditional sort of salesperson mentality or personality. That's very
the whole business
person, really. My mother could do this. I'm not even joking. I could train Nan to do this, Pete. Seriously, it's not that difficult, really. You're just being a person, taking an interest in things, commenting on things, congratulating people, saying things that you like, things and why it's meant something to you, and inviting people to connect and giving a reason. It's a cinch. I'm just going to do this very quickly, and we'll come to a few questions, Pete. I know we must have quite a few lined up, but I'll just do this. It's very quick.
Yeah, we do want to make sure we do the next section as well, because there's some top tips in the next bit.
Yeah, we do. I can do the top tips quite quickly for you. We've covered some off already, actually, so that's fairly straightforward. So this is the pigeonhole pitch. The first is who you deal with. So mostly I deal with, in my case, I mostly deal with owners of small to medium-sized recruitment firms. What's the problem that they have that you solve? Well, what I do is help them to build their business. So either it's a lifestyle or it's something that's saleable. They choose, really. The reason that how I do that is by working through a program of change, which understands that this isn't a pitch. I'm not pitching to you now. So, but you understand how it goes. Why do people choose you? What's the single biggest reason that people choose you? In my case, because I've been and done it twice before, which is very, very unusual. I mean, you can have whatever USP that you want there. And lastly, where can people find proof of quality? And if you go, I'm going to show you what proof of quality looks like very quickly. This is our testimonial page on our old website, the Flair website. It's just a page full of videos saying how fabulous I am. It's not an ego thing, by the way. It's just, you think Mike says he does what he does, then he does it really, So
his own page.
Yeah, he does. So that's essentially what a pigeonhole pitch is. In the notes, there's a bit more detail on that for you, because I can't obviously cover it today, but that is the system. There it is. Easy peasy. So let me stop sharing now. Come back to Nikki.
Okay. Super. Okay. So
are we taking questions now? What are we doing?
That wasn't rocket science, was it? Well, we've been we've taken the questions. Is there anyone more? Because I think there was a few that you wanted to bring together, wasn't there, Pete?
There's been a little batch of questions, sort of the type of content you should be posting. So I'll ask all three, and then maybe you can answer them in succession, or you can answer them in.
Yeah.
Someone's asked, what percentage split would you give in terms of your posting between personal and professional? So What sense?
Given the choice, much more personal than professional.
Yeah. I mean, in the past, you've told me the 80-20 rule.
Well, you can have personal, professional things. If that makes sense. Personal doesn't mean to say a picture of you in a phone party in Ibiza. Although I really would like to see that, guys, if you could. But it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean showing pictures of what you had for your lunch or pictures of your dog. Although dog pictures,
Yeah, it's not Facebook.
they go down tremendously well. It's about having a personal slant on a business thing. You can do that. That's absolutely fine. Or to open up a little bit, but it's got to be sincere and authentic. You're not going to be writing it thinking, oh, I'm doing this so that people will like it because it's me opening myself up. That's the wrong motive. If you think somebody can learn something from what you've done and you put that in a post, or if you want to draw attention to something that means a lot to you. So Pete, you did that post for Joe, didn't you?
Yeah, my wife had a bone marrow transplant 6-7 years ago. I should really know how long ago it was.
10 years ago, son.
No, that was when we got married. About 8-9 years ago, I think it was. And the bone marrow was found through Anthony Nolan. So she's always pushing to get Anthony Nolan awareness. And she met her donor about 2 years ago. And BBC did a story on it. So I did a post, which was basically, look at this amazing story, go and sign up for Anthony Nolan. And I think 15,000 views, something like that. Just easily my most popular post.
Yeah, it does. So the point of it is that professional, there has to be an element of professionalism around it, but you can make that personal.
Yeah, no, I agree. Someone's just reminded me that I should know when her bone marrow transplant was because we watched the London Olympics while we were in the bubble with her. Thanks, Paul. So the other question was, I have a personal page and a business page. I usually post on the business and then repost on the personal. Is that the right way to do this?
LinkedIn doesn't like shares, really. That's why you never get a lot of action on shares. It doesn't like it, really. It wants original content. If somebody else has published or you published it somewhere else, it doesn't want you to do it again because a lot of people were basically just reposting a load of stuff. So it's not going to do any harm if you do it. But what LinkedIn wants is original content.
And it's hard to form a relationship with the brand.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best, if you want to make money, then post on your personal side. I mean, you can put stuff on your company side. Why wouldn't you really? But nobody can have a relationship with a company. You know, they can have an agreement or some kind of partnership, but they can't have a relationship. You have relationships with people. So my advice for you would be to put stuff on your personal one, first and foremost.
Do videos have the same impact as long form LinkedIn posts?
Yes and no, actually. They'll get a lot less views and likes. So we would typically, on a video on LinkedIn Live, get 1,000 views or something, whatever. So not very many in the great scheme of things. But what it is you in person. And that I'd do it if I only got 300 views because those people are seeing me. Now, obviously, you have to ask yourself, with a shirt like this, is that a good idea? But I'm going with yes on this one, right? But the point is that they're seeing you and they're beginning to get you as a personality, 3-dimensional, not just some written words on a page. So I think you need both. Video so they can see you, the written one because it's going to get more views. LinkedIn for some reason likes it. But I'll give you a tip as well. One very popular, there's 16 different types of long form LinkedIn posts. One of them is called a carousel. It's where you put a PDF as an attachment to the post. And the PDF is like a very, very simple presentation, like 6 or 7 words a page. Not even joking, big font. And then they can page their way through. You often get quite a lot of interaction with carousel posts. They're pretty cool.
They do well. Right. I'm conscious of time. We do still have...
we need to switch it. So very, very quickly, Mike, what are some of the top BD business development tips that you can straight out of the box? Okay,
so I'm not going with top necessarily because there are so many really. We tried to put as many of these quick things in today as well, obviously, as I did, which you can do with LinkedIn. But there are 3 things. If you want to do well with a prospect, you've got to get them talking about their problems. We all know that because if they don't have a problem, you can't help them. If you can't help them, then you can't basically sell them what you sell. But if you ask people if they've got a problem or what are your challenges or whatever up front, chances are the shutters all come down. No, we're okay. We're in good form. We're okay. Thanks. It's like saying, no, don't push too far. I don't want you to sell to me. The way around that, weirdly, is you ask them what's going well. So you can do this as an event. You can do this online, on a telephone call, whatever. So what exactly is going well for you at the moment then? What's working for you? And they're only too happy to tell you that. Oh yeah, well, we're doing this thing and sales have gone up and this, that, and the other. And you kind of, yeah, that's interesting. Bit of interaction, ask a further question, like get like round that out for them. And then so that's really, really interesting. So what's your main challenge right now? Almost 100% of people will give you one right there. Oh, bloody hell, we just can't get the people. Blimey heck, if only we could. That's a really cool way to get them talking about a problem, which you can then obviously then begin to think about how you can do something with. Second tip is around emails, getting them opened, right? So the three things I would say about that. Firstly, the subject line, 43 characters. Preferably the first character is lowercase. Don't use that RE colon and then that's a con, it's a cheat, don't do that. But start it with a lowercase. So it looks just like you've dashed out a note, 43 characters, including spaces. The first sentence, don't waste it. It has to be about them or something that's of interest to them. Don't waste it if it's a new person with, how are you? Or do you mind if I, or no. There is this thing I think you might be interested in, or are you interested in this thing? Or this is the subject of the webinar that we're running, or something that's going to be of interest to them. I noticed you put this online. I noticed on your website you said this. Something that they're going to think, yeah. And then after that, you get a little bit of time. And then the third thing about emails, and I've already mentioned this before, use a PS. If you want someone to read something, stick it as a PS. One line, don't go overboard, don't like chapter and verse, one line. By the way, I thought it'd be okay if I connected with you on LinkedIn or something like that, right? So very cool way of doing that. And the last thing, which, and you know, when I go through LinkedIn, there's so many different things, but I'm going to just repeat something that I've said before, because I think it's important. Always use a message that gives a reason for them to connect with you. And when they join, when they accept your invitation, send them a welcome message, either an audio message. You can experiment with that. And don't forget, if you do it and cock it up, you press delete, you don't send it, you do it again till you get it right. So it's a no-brainer. And you'll find that you'll get more reaction to that, as I just did. And I promise that wasn't planned. Can't wait to go back in there and respond with Jill again. But those are my 3 tips you can use straight out the box today.
Brilliant. So just to summarise, because there was, went through that very quickly. So to correct me wrong, forget to summarise. So get the client talking, get them talking about their problems, but sometimes the way it is get them talking about their successes first, and then it leads into the problem.
Definitely, yeah.
Second, on the email, on the subject line, so this is something that I've not heard before, use a first character lowercase, but the first sentence has got to be punchy, it's got to be about them, so it's got to draw them in.
And people talk about themselves. No one's interested, quite frankly. So,
yeah, and it's got to have using a PS is really important. Which I'd never thought of that. I just thought you haven't got scrolled down by then.
Don't waste it. People will scan down. They'll ignore your email and read the PS.
And make that personalised. Something different. And the final one. There was another bit.
LinkedIn messages.
LinkedIn message.
Yeah. Invitation, customized invitation message, and if you can, a customized kind of welcome message for sure.
Yeah, that's it. Welcome message.
Do you just want me to summarize up the system and everything that we've just done? Would that be okay?
That would be
okay.
Fantastic. Just a bit beware, we are officially finishing at 2. However, we always offer, we'll stay on until we've exhausted all questions.
Yeah, definitely. We're here for long.
So Mike summarising, but we are staying online.
And if you've got to go at 2, I know people have meetings, and you watch the recording, just scan forward to the hour mark, and then you'll see the questions that you're going to miss. Okay, right. So very quickly, you need to change the narrative away from "Do you want to buy this?" To "How can I help you?" The best way to do that is content. If you want to come on our content course, just put a 7 in the comments and we'll invite you. It's no big deal. But then really it's about connecting with people on LinkedIn, interacting with them through content and comments and being just yourself, reaching the stage where the e-rapport is strong enough for you to say, hey, look, we've been, talking for some time. Can I just pigeonhole myself? Can I just tell you what I do? And then you hit them with that 5-point pigeonhole that you must practice. I accept that and work at. But when you've nailed that, it's so much easier. And I think probably 20 to 30% of the time that you do a Pigeonhole pitch, you're going to get some opportunities on the back of it. So it's pretty cool. So I hope that's been of some use to you. If you get any questions, like I said, like Pete said, put them in and we'll answer them in a second.
Well, I've certainly learnt loads already. So even more linked activity coming on for me. It will appear, but it will take me 20 minutes. Brilliant. So yes, we're ready to take questions. Do you want to filter them out, Pete?
Yes, I've got them all out.
We're happy to take lots of positive comments too.
I don't care about the negative ones either. Bring it on.
I'm just going to say a couple of positive ones. Actually, we had someone said that they thank you for it being very interesting. I asked what they found interesting, and they love the simplicity of it, the process. And I think that's the big thing. That's what
they weren't calling Mike simple, were they?
Well, you know, if the cap fits where it. This, I have to stress, this is the lower level version. It's the easy one because I think anyone can do this. There is a slightly more difficult one which gets better results quicker on top of this, but this one will work and get you started doing it. So yeah, great, thanks for that.
Or perhaps we can do the higher level one.
Yeah, I'm very happy to do that. Yeah.
You've done a few months of this. Let's look at that later.
Come back in the autumn, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, fabulous.
I think there was someone else who said they said quite a few things. It was I think your insurance chap, Nikki, but they said one of the things they said generally don't like being sold to, but I find the interactions can be quite interesting. So that's to do with the being approached on LinkedIn. You want to sort of create a pseudo referral, whereas referral comes from a person. Oh, you need to speak to Nikki Larkin. What you want is, oh, I need an accountant now. Who should I go for? I know. I'll go for that Nikki Larkin because I've seen her a lot. We've interacted a bit. It's the natural thing to do. That's all you're trying to create, really.
Yeah. And my first interactions were Mike on Twitter.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
We didn't talk about accounts or recruitment. It was about, I know, some political thing or probably something or other, general affairs,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Current affairs, not general affairs, current affairs.
We had one question here. Way back to the very start, it just didn't add a good time to come in. Regarding the exit strategy and the balance of high view clients, is it important to have a balance of some are high revenue, some are high margin, or they satisfy other criteria, or is it all about margin when it comes to? For me personally, it's a combination of those things. I want, first and foremost, I'd swap a little bit of margin for repeat business, because if you know how to manage a client, so they come to you first, and that's not difficult, quite frankly. Then if you do that, then there's no cost of sale. So you can do it for slightly less margin because that margin isn't being used for the cost of sale. So I'd easily swap a little bit of margin, not too much, but a little bit, to get on the terms where I'm getting a steady stream of opportunities coming through for sure. Yeah. Nikki, is there anything you'd like to add on that one? I mean,
well, do you know that completely resonates with. I had a VC meeting yesterday for a certain project, and the VC was all about cost of acquisition and the long-term value of a customer. Yeah, LTV, lifetime value of the LTV is crucial. And that completely is. So, so that completely, it correlates wherever you are in your journey. If it's you're actually exiting or at the beginning trying to get the investment, that's what the investors definitely want to have, so yeah, margin, longevity and value. And also I've got to say, how easy is it to deal with them? Some clients are right pain in the backside. And it's like, oh man, it's a lot of hassle for what you get from it. Others are just a dream, really, and they see you as a partner. Someone once said to me, you want clients that buy you, not rent you. And I think by that, I mean, they buy into you is really what he was saying. They see you as being designed into their solution, which is what we used to say in IT. Where they rent you, they're just using you because you happen to be the cheapest or the most convenient, or they're using you to cheese off one of their other suppliers or beat the price down or something. You actually want those people that buy into you. They're the ones where you make your money. Yeah. Go for the easiest client to work with. Sure. Yeah. So someone asked, when coming to the Pigeonhole pitch, so jumping all the way back to the end of the system there, how do you know the time is right to deliver a Pigeonhole pitch? Well, I'd say if you get away from sales or business for a second and just get onto, say, a work situation where you've got a work colleague and you meet them for the first time, and then you kind of realize you've got a bit in common, really, perhaps the same sense of humor or same interests or something. And there reaches a point, you just know it's okay to say, do you fancy going for a coffee? Not in a weird way, like or anything, but
but, or do I fancy a beer down the pub after work or something. You just kind of know that the relationship has reached that stage where you can take it to the next level. But here's the thing. With a pigeonhole pitch, there's no downside because you're not asking to pitch. So if you say to someone, say you've been interacting quite a bit on LinkedIn, you connected quite a bit on LinkedIn, maybe you've invited them to an event that you're running. We didn't get to do events. Events is in like the second level, but maybe they're coming to an event or something. So it's quite normal after that to say, look, send an email or ring them up or whatever it is that, whatever level you're at with that person to say, hey, we've been obviously interacting quite a bit and I know a little bit about what you do. Would you like to know what I do? I'm not going to sell anything to you. I promise. I'm just going to pigeonhole me. So, and if you do it in the right way at the right time, there's a lot of leeway on that is what I'm saying to you. You're going to struggle to get it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you do, they just say no. Duh.
Yeah, but you've not pitched, so the door's not closed.
No, they absolutely not. Do it again another time.
Yeah. So got another question coming in. What are your thoughts on outsourcing your LinkedIn activity?
I'm not in favor of that because can you outsource your personality? Can the person you outsource it spot when somebody's making those noises that come from your clients? You kind of know. And you think, I know where that's going. Can they spot all of those things? I suppose if the answer is yes, and they've got an identical personality to you, then probably yes. Now, there are certain things you can outsource. Production of content is fine. Not the long form LinkedIn posts, or if you're going to do the long form LinkedIn posts, you've got to get someone who's attuned to you. That's fine then. But the comments on the long form LinkedIn post should be you. And also there are certain products that you can get, which will invite people to connect on your behalf. Got to be careful with them because the LinkedIn police don't like them, but you can use that to a certain extent. We've used them in the past. Although if you're from LinkedIn, no, we haven't. That was a joke. So I don't think I would do it. It's not a lot of time and it's your big chance to start e-rapport.
I think one of the things I teach when I teach my course, I encourage them they don't have that choice. Obviously they just work in a law firm. But one of the things I point out is that by being out there on LinkedIn and writing things, you're learning a lot. You really quickly get a feel for what is and
good point. Yeah.
You miss out on a lot basically if you outsource it. You blind yourself to a lot of what's going on. Had a quick question coming in there at the end there. I'm going to let it go through because they've been very good for questions. Do you put much stock in networking events? If yes, would you focus on one good fit or a couple to increase your general reach?
Okay. I've got a very simple stance on that, and it's a no-brainer. If your potential clients go to those places and you do business with them when they do, then you should. Or intermediaries, if you go through intermediaries, same thing. Then you should, right? You should pick and choose where you go to. I think you should log everything on your CRM system so you know where people have come from. And you can have a good, hard look then at every event you attend to see whether it was worth it based upon the clients that you eventually won from it. Not immediately, not saying you go and sell to them immediately, but maybe you met someone at an event 6 months ago and they're a client now, and you can track it back to that event because that's what you put in your CRM system or whatever you use, right? So if the kind of people you want go to those places, and if you're successfully engaging them, then yes. I personally never go to them because I hate them. I'm very nervous in front of people, a group of people. I don't do well in that environment. I don't like it very much. I feel uncomfortable. I don't really like walking up to people who don't know me and saying, hi, my name's Mike. It just doesn't scan for me at all, really. So I don't do that. And also the kind of people I want to trade with don't go to those places, really. They might send somebody.
Yeah.
They don't go. I've been to paid events. We used to pay 10 grand when I ran a recruitment business. We used to pay 10 grand to go on a boat that sailed around the English Channel for 3 days. We had to pay. All the people that were brought were senior decision makers, directors, IT directors, HR directors, and they came for free and had all the food and drink for free. The deal was they had to meet you, right? That was well worth it. We were regularly making £500,000-600,000 from that £10,000 investment. Why wouldn't you? And I think paid events are usually better than the non-paid events, but just tread carefully because it will burn time up for sure.
Yeah. I think for me personally, I found it very useful at the beginning of starting a business and to get to know some key people. But I personally, I've got my own network and I make sure I see them regularly. And, there are certain networking events where a lot of my referrers go to, and so it is quite good to go and see them all in one bash. But generally, I much prefer the one-on-one coffees and lunches.
Me too, yeah. Measure everything though. Measure everything. Don't leave it to your opinion. Let the data make the decisions for you.
Yeah, statistics for everything. Brilliant.
Sure. How are we doing, Pete?
Very good. Yeah, we've got a few more questions. I think we're going to have to cap it at 15:15. So if there's anything else, we'll direct with the person who asked it last. Is it okay? I thought this was an interesting one because there's two now around people. Is it okay to have one person focused on the BD and then pass it over to someone else to manage the new client? Can you transfer a relationship?
Yes, it is. It is okay. What you can't do is inherit a relationship. So if I've got a really good relationship with a person and then they say, we're not dealing with him anymore, you're dealing with her now, I've then got to rebuild that relationship. So you can't come in and pretend the relationship with the new person is exactly the same as the old one, because it isn't. It's going to be a different shape because of different people. So if you're going to do a handover, make it a good handover period. 6 to 8 months is my recommendation. Big clients, smaller clients, you can take less. And the deal is it's 3-stage. Stage was in, I'm still your main contact, but if I'm not around, speak to Pete, right? That's the first thing. Okay, and that's fine. And then, that's all right. The next stage is exactly the same as that, but now I'm not available as much as I was. So Pete's starting to come in, do a few things. Oh, I'm not available to come to that thing. I'll send Pete, it'll be fine. They know Pete anyway, because he's been doing stuff. And then thirdly, Pete's your main person, but I'm the escalation point, and I'll still come to the odd do and the odd social and what have you. That process of handing over is what we used to use, and it was very successful. But don't just on a Friday, it's me, and on a Monday, it's Pete. Not going to happen. You lose people that way.
No, I agree.
We've just had a lovely comment come in.
No, don't tell him.
Oh, I'm going to, because Pete might.
Is that my shirt?
No, it's lovely. It says, have to say this has been fantastic. I didn't write this. Best webinar I've attended due to the quality of content and format. Also, Mike is an instantly likable chat. Oh, and he also likes the shirt. There is something about the shirt.
Nikki, you don't have to.
Anyway, did you send?
That's lovely to end on that point.
Did you send this link to my mother? Did you? Because she sometimes writes in. Thank you, Mother.
No.
Thank you, Mother. I'll be round at the weekend. Well, thank you, whoever that was.
Thank you, Mrs. Ames Senior.
Right. I think that the last question we had, and then I think we'll have to end it there. Thank you for everybody who's been. Just so you all know, at the end of the webinar, there's a little survey. We want to know how well we did and where we could do better. If you could take the 30 seconds to fill that out.
It's 30 seconds, guys. Would mean a lot to us.
Correct you. But question, I'm seen as figurehead of my firm. Does it devalue our proposition if it's not me delivering that message?
No, not at all. Not at all. The only reason you wouldn't want to keep it that way is if you're growing a cash cow lifestyle business, and then you can be the figurehead, but that's pretty much all you do. And then people feel around you like a surgeon's team. It's a surgeon that does the main bit. Everyone else does around you. But I think it's the opposite. It's like saying there are other people in this firm you can trust. There are other people in this firm who are on message, who's passionate about this as I do. And it's okay for you to deal with them. I want you to, but I'm always here if you need me, always.
Yeah.
Indeed. So we are recording this. We will be sharing this out. Do click and subscribe on our YouTube channel so you don't miss any future ones. But thank you so much, everybody. So thank you so much, Mike. Thank you, Pete.
You're welcome.
It's a delight to spend last couple hours with you. It's brilliant. And as said, please answer Pete's survey, really helpful. Also, if you're practicing on LinkedIn, send me a message, tell me what webinar you'd like next, because we're making sure we cover all the bases for our business owners.
You can invite me to connect as well with a kooky message. I'd like to see that.
Yeah. See how quickly he responds back.
Yes.
Then send me an audio welcome message. You can send what you like. It'd be hilarious.
And just a pleasure to be
so much
in the chat as well. All right.
Thank you.